Hey guys, this is 1am. Aspiring battle rappers and songwriters often ask for feedback on lyrics. Instead of catching the fish for you, I'm going to critique some of my older work, and that will hopefully help you to catch the fish for yourselves. This could be a one off, but if it's well received, I might make a part two. For now, we're gonna call this Good Bar, Bad Bar. Okay, so we're gonna look at a few bars from my Rapture battle that was on B3 and happened in 2017. Forgive the shaky hands, hopefully we can get rid of that or minimize that in the edit. And just to be clear, we have good bars in blue, bad bars in red, and where suggested changes were possible, those notes are then in green. So the first two bars we have say, "You wouldn't spark a note with Samsung bringing it back, and a stay free secure adds the last time you saw ink in a pad." Now, the first bar is one that I'd classify as a bad bar. And the reason for that is that while spark can be used as a verb to say you've started something, you've sparked a note or you've sparked an idea. This is obviously in reference to the Samsung Note 7s, I think they were, that would, a lot of them were catching fire and they had to be recalled. So a note catching fire, if that happened to you, if your Samsung phone caught fire, you wouldn't really say that you sparked it. So for that reason, you call this a reach, where it's not a punch that connects perfectly on both levels. And it needs to work on both levels because that's how you write flawless double entendres. And the suggested change here is, instead of "you wouldn't spark a note," it works a bit better if you say, if I'd said something like, "You wouldn't have a note on fire," then it works on both levels. And it's not super clean, but it's definitely an improvement with that phrasing. The next bar is, "A stay free secure adds the last time you saw ink in a pad." This is a very clean bar that works very well on both levels, because I was saying that he doesn't do his own writing and he plagiarizes or steals other people's rhymes. And that's why he doesn't look down when he's writing and, see his own ink in his notepad. So in that sense, a stay free secure adds the last time you saw ink in a pad, because they don't use blood, they pour ink onto the sanitary pads in the ads. And that's not an obscure reference, that's something that's very commonly seen on TV commercials. So I think that's why that works very seamlessly. And again, it's ink in a pad in both meanings, so I think that's why that bar works quite well. Then we skip ahead a few lines and we have, "You'll get smoked for cheap like I sparked the grass. A couple rounds could take your top off like Mardi Gras." The issue with first bar is that no one really calls weed grass over here, not anymore at least. And sparked the grass, again, it isn't like the most natural phrasing that you might use. Of course, I was trying to go with the rhyme scheme that had Mardi Gras and Arya Stark, so that's why I used that phrasing, but that's still not a good enough reason to do that, which is why this bar doesn't work. The bar after that doesn't work because it's actually a quadruple entendre, which I realized a few minutes ago. If it were to work on all four levels, but it doesn't. And I'm gonna break down why. So a couple rounds could take your top off like Mardi Gras. So let's just focus first on the first half of that bar. A couple rounds could take your top off. So this was a 2-round battle, and a couple can mean a few, but it also can mean 2. So I'm saying you'd get decapitated with 2 of my rounds, or both of my rounds. That's meaning number 1. Meaning number 2 is, if you're into using gun bars, which I usually avoid, but I guess I gave in to temptation here, I'm saying that a couple of rounds of ammunition could take your top off, as in take your head off. Now, those two double entendres work, but the ones that don't work are the ones that refer to Mardi Gras. First issue that's there is that Mardi Gras is a festival in New Orleans in the US, and it's a very obscure reference for an Indian audience, and I performed this in Bombay, so that's too niche a reference. You need to use references that most people, or at least like let's say 50% of your audience, is going to understand, and this wasn't that. And the more serious, less debatable issue with this line is that, as a unanimous British battle rapper and veteran pointed out against Koje, he said that you can't use the word round, even though a huge number of battle rappers do it. You can't call something circular a round. It could be a circle, it could be a sphere, but it's not a round. It's round in shape, but it's not a round, which is why the bar doesn't work. And the meaning for those two bars, or for those two interpretations, would be a couple of rounds, as in a couple of beads, because there's a tradition of women flashing their breasts at the parade, and then people throw beads to them in appreciation. So yeah, the beads were the rounds that I was referring to, but yeah, that doesn't work. And again, the potential fourth meaning would be that rounds as in the breasts themselves. But yeah, so those don't work. And yeah, the top off is obviously like the clothing removal reference. But yeah, that's essentially why I think these two are bad bars. And now we're gonna move on to the last two bars for this segment. And the first one is, you haven't seen hunger like this since last Ramzan. Hunger here I'm referring to like passion and ambition. And it's not a crazy bar, but I think it still works. And it's like fairly easy to understand, like the fasting and the hunger with Ramzan. The bar after that, though, I think is a quite interesting example, and I think it's a good bar that could have easily been great, but I didn't see it in time, and I realized only after the performance. So this is a Game of Thrones reference, and spoiler alert, Arya Stark becomes this faceless assassin by carrying a set of severed heads or faces with her, and then she's able to wear those as masks. So she collects them or steals them from the House of Black and White, and then saves them for later. So that's why save works. And she uses that to kill people, some by cuts their necks off. So she's getting ahead. You'll have to save face to get ahead, like Arya Stark. So she's saved faces, and she's gotten ahead when she kills Walder Frey in the show. But the reason it isn't flawless is that I've written saved face. I should have said save some face, because grammatically it only works if Arya saves a face or saves faces. But if you add the word some here, then it can be some face, because it's just some random face that she's saved. So it works in that sense. And save face also means to avoid embarrassment. So you can save face to some extent. You can say, I should have saved some face, and that would still work. So just adding that one word here takes it from a good bar or a decent bar to a great bar. And yeah, that's the, I think, key error in this line. And of course, get ahead, I've put a hyphen here because you could say ahead as two separate words, or ahead as in progressing. So that's why Python's there, because it can be used in 2 different ways. And yeah, that's the video.